So, I'm going to get you to find a very obscure book in the Bible. 1 John chapter 5. Okay. Does anyone have an actual Bible? On this half of the room. On this half of the room. So you have an actual Bible or you have the phone Bible?
I have an actual Bible.
I
have a Bible.
We have one. We have one. We have two. Okay.
A Bible is a Bible, but I also have
Three. Okay. Wow, that's a lot of you guys.
Three is a walking.
Okay. So as you're standing there, I want to tell you a really good story. So basically, about 3 years ago, we decided. My mum has a birthday in January, and as you know, it's pretty much right after Christmas.
Every year?
Yeah, she has it every year, right after Christmas. And so, what happens is that we end up going, she gives us money, goes, buy me a present, and we're like, using her money to buy her a Christmas present, and we're like, it's your birthday present too. So about 3 years ago, we decided, this is probably not a great thing to do, because she kind of tells us what she wants each year, so it's almost as if she's just getting us to buy her whatever. So I think I decided that we're going to do something a bit different. So that year we decided, as a complete surprise, we were going to make her a fancy dinner, and we were going to clean the entire house. Have you ever tried cleaning an entire house in one day?
Yes.
With Jonathan and with Abby. It is one of the most interesting experiences you will ever have. Because what happened was that Abby decided that she had to do the cooking, and because Abby loves to cook, Abby was like, I'm locking myself in the kitchen, do not enter the kitchen. Which meant that left me with Jonathan to clean the whole house. And Jonathan likes to, he stops and he sort of goes, I'll read a book now. Oh, the TV is interesting. I'll turn it on and watch the TV. And I'm sitting there going, Jonathan, we've got 3 more hours and you've done nothing. So we rushed through and cleaned the entire house. And Mum calls saying that she's at Linford Station. So we're like, Jonathan, go. Can you at least wear something, like wear a nice shirt? And he goes, I'll put on a polo. So we're like, okay, then a nice-ish shirt. And when he's running out to go meet Mum, he's in jeans, but we're like, he's in a nice shirt, not the messy one he was ready for cleaning. And Mum's like, is this sort of nice? But it was a bit normal. And then she comes in, Abby and I have sort of set up the table for dinner, and we've put on really nice dresses, and Mum's like, what in the world is happening? Because it wasn't on her birthday, it was a surprise done it like the day before her birthday. And so what happened was that Abby had made homemade bruschetta. Abby had cooked steaks, we'd made mashed potatoes, and then for dessert we decided that we cooked so much that we just bought a Bavarian. But then we decided that Mum loved it that year. She loved it so much what we had done for her. And it wasn't just the cooking, it was the cleaning, it was that we'd done it all just for her that one day. So we repeated it last year, cooked the same meal, but we decided that we'd have yogurt for dessert instead.
Come on.
And then this year, at the beginning of this year, we decided we're going to do a completely homemade meal. So Abby completely made these random entree that's like pastry twists. And then we had Abby made a potato bake, she made a pie from scratch essentially, except for the pastry. And then for dessert she made her famous mud cake. And Mum was sitting there going, this year Mum had thought we had forgotten pretty much, because we'd managed to hide it so well. Whenever she came home we were so relaxed, and she couldn't find any food hidden away in the freezer or in the fridge, so she didn't think it was happening this year. So when she came home, she didn't really pick it up as well, because this year, as a miracle, Jonathan was in a button-down shirt and not wearing jeans, wearing nice slacks instead. So I'm like, score! He managed to actually get out of the jeans.
Come on,
So Mum was so surprised, because we'd done this just for her, to show her that we loved her, because we realised it wasn't enough to say that we loved her and that we were honouring her birthday by just buying her a present with her money. It was, we loved her and we honoured her, so we wanted to do something.
Yeah.
So going back to 1 John chapter 5, you should have found it by now if you haven't. Find it. Yeah. So 1 John chapter 5, verses 1 to 3 says, everyone who believes that Jesus is the Christ is born of God, and everyone who loves the Father loves his child as well. This is how we know that we love the children of God, by loving God and carrying out his commands. This is love for God, to obey his commands, and his commands are not burdensome. So, who knows what the most obvious commands of God are?
The 10?
Love your neighbors as yourself.
Pretty much, the most obvious. I mean, it has it in the title.
Love your God as you
Yeah?
do not lie.
Yeah, the 10 Commandments, pretty much. Who knows them? Who knows them 1 to 10 in order? Yes, who does? Okay, who knows what the first one is? Yeah.
Keep as long as you like God.
Yep, second one. Nope. That's another one. The second one. Yeah, idols. Third one. Okay, if you need help, it's in Exodus. Does anyone know which chapter of Exodus?
3.
No, you're closer than 3. 30 is closer than 20. Yeah, it's Exodus 20. So turn to Exodus 20. First one there, tell me what the 3, 4, 5, and down to 10 are.
Do not covet.
You only got 1 and 2.
Don't covet.
The first 2 was love the Lord your God and no idol. That's down at number 7. Okay, so what was number 1?
No other God.
No other gods. Number 2? No idols. Number 3? Yeah, do not take God's name in vain. Number 4?
Remember the Sabbath.
Sabbath. And number 5? Your parents love this one. Number 5. Yes, honor your father and your mother. Number 6?
Do not lie.
Do not murder. You got it? Number 7, you said? Yep. Number 8? Yep. Number 9? Yep. Do not do a false testimony. Number 10? Do not covet. Okay. And then I was thinking, this is really big word, and this is like really general stuff that we all think, well, we don't do it, or we did it once, but that was ages ago. So I thought, what do the 10 Commandments look like? So, my first thing was, for Commandments 1 and 2, it's pretty much putting God as your top priority. And then there's being careful about what you say, remembering to rest and spend time with God, respecting and spending time with your parents, and not destroying other people's relationships, and being happy with what you have. So that's essential. I summarized pretty much the 10 Commandments in 6. And so I was thinking I was going to focus mainly on the first 2. And so I'll start with the second one. You are careful about the words you say. So, Proverbs 18:21. Does anyone know this one? It's kind of a well-known. Drew knows it. Yeah. So, the NIV says, the tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit. And then I went to the Message. The Message is a much cooler version. It says, words kill, words give life. They're either poison or fruit, you choose. So, the words you speak have the power to give life or the power to kill, essentially. And so starting off with, going sort of in order, we'll start off with the third commandment, do not take the Lord's name in vain. So how do you use God's name? And I think the most obvious one is taking the Lord's name in vain is misusing God's name, essentially. And you can use it badly, which is swearing, and which is also claiming that God can't do something. So misusing God's name isn't just you swearing, it's also when you say that God can't do something in your life. And it doesn't matter if you say it as a joke or if you actually mean it. But have you ever just said randomly, like, oh, God can't do that? Or Jesus can't help me with this. I mean, it's something I just have to deal with. But there's also another thing. How using God's name can also mean you omit it. So have you ever done, God's done something in your life, and He's done something amazing, and you've decided, when someone asked you about it, you just said it was chance, it was luck. You prayed for the bus to be running late so you could catch it. Or when your friends asked, you said, oh, it was luck, I was so lucky the bus was running late so I could catch it. Have you ever done that? Yes. You prayed for the bus to run late.
No, the bus just comes late.
Yes.
I did that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but so misusing God's name isn't just swearing, it's also the saying God can't, or removing God from your vocabulary.
Yeah.
And I think it's key that we recognize this so we know how to properly use God's name.
Yeah.
Because this commandment isn't about just misusing, it's about using it properly.
Yeah.
And using it properly means you acknowledge that God can do anything.
Yeah.
Because God's all-powerful. So no matter what's happening in your life, God can do anything. But it's also not hiding what God has done in your life. So if God's done something in your life, it doesn't matter how big or how small, have you acknowledged that if someone asks you? And so, going on to the 9th commandment, are you speaking the truth? Because the 9th commandment is do not do a false testimony. So do you speak the truth in your everyday life? And this doesn't mean, this isn't just this is lying about others, but it's also when somebody else is lying and you know they're lying, but you don't speak up, you don't say something, because that's you aiding them in their lying. So when someone else lies and you're like, I'm pretty sure that's not right, but you don't stand up and say that's wrong, that means that you have chosen to lie as well. And that's what this commandment is about. It's not just about do not lie, it's about do not lie as well through what other people say and you're not correcting them, but do not lie through your actions as well. And so choosing to obey God, choosing to not lie, essentially means that if you can't speak the truth, you just be quiet, is essentially what it means. It means if you know the words you're going to speak are going to be a lie, or they're going to be a half truth, which is half a lie, you choose not to speak that half lie. But they also mean that if you see someone, it might be one of your friends, and then they start bagging out someone you know, one of your other friends, a random student, or one of your teachers, and you know that what they're saying is wrong, you don't just sit there and you don't just accept what they're saying. You choose to say, no, I think that's wrong. It doesn't matter if you're afraid. It matters that you chose to stand up and do what you believe in, and because you love God, that you want to obey His commands, because that's what 1 John was saying. When you love somebody, you want to do something. You don't just say you love them, you want to do something to prove it, to show that you have actions backing up your love. And then I thought, well, then there's this sixth commandment. What's the sixth commandment? You don't know? No? Murder. Sixth commandment is murder. And I'm pretty sure none of you have ever considered actually murdering somebody. You may have been like, you may have thought, I'm really mad at them, but you haven't actually gone and murdered somebody.
Yes.
But physically. But then I was thinking, the more applicable one is, have you ever verbally murdered somebody? Have you ever gotten so mad at somebody that everything that came out of your mouth cut them down? Every single word. And afterwards you might have felt guilty, or you may have just felt justified, but it doesn't matter why you did it or what they did to make you do it. What matters is that at that moment when you were so mad, or when you thought that's what you had to do to impress your friends, at that moment you murdered somebody, and you murdered them verbally, so you murdered their spirit and their emotions. But the interesting thing about verbal murder, unlike physical murder, is verbal murder you can redeem yourself. Verbal murder allows you to say sorry, and it allows you, if you've been verbally murdered, to forgive that person. Because verbal murder, it murders parts of you. It doesn't murder you as a whole, it murders parts of you. So if you have been verbally murdered, it allows you you are allowed, when you forgive that person, you remove that part of you that's been murdered and allow something new to grow.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing with verbal murder. It's when you have been, you can still live from it, you can have a new growth from it.
Wow.
So, then I thought we'll go on to the first two commandments. God as your top priority. Now, I've got another story for this one. Yes, I've got another story. Yes. So, if anyone knows anything about me, they know that I used to love to read. I loved it. I still do. But, you know, it's lessened slightly. But it was from like the age of 2. I couldn't even read, but I'd be memorizing what my parents were saying when they read the books to me, and I could pretty much read the book out to them, but I couldn't actually read.
That's what Elise does.
Yeah, but it changed. It somehow in the past, 18 years or so, it changed, around I think when I was 10, it changed from being something I loved to do and something that I had fun doing, to something that started to control me. It changed from I love to read, but it changed from me choosing to read, to me choosing to read instead of doing other things. It changed from me choosing to read. And the thing was, I didn't choose to read the Bible. I was choosing to read almost every other book that I could possibly find. And it got to the point where I became known for the reading. And it got to the point where I loved God, and so sure, my friends knew it, but they knew that I loved reading more. And they knew that, and so I had one day, I was at school, lunchtime, and they saw me without a book in my hand or right next to me. And my friends started to freak out. They thought, what's wrong with Miriam? They then realized I was on my computer and there was a book on my computer. So they all calmed down. But it got to the point where I would spend 5 to 7 hours a day reading. Yes. You did not see that one coming.
Oh, that sounds...
That's like
But it got to that point, and then one night, a while ago, I was up about 2 a.m. I just finished a book, and I realized this is not right. Because I had finished a massive book, and I'm like, this is not right. There's something wrong, and I realized what's happened to God in my life. And at that moment, I was in my bed, and I'm like, God, help me. Because my love of reading has conformed into something I love, to something that controls me. And at that moment, I prayed to God, I'm like, help me put you first. And that next morning, well, 8 hours later, about 10 a.m., I woke up, I looked at the massive stack of books beside my bed, and I had no desire to read them at all. Because at that moment, I'd realised that what I was doing, I'd given myself another God, I'd given myself another idol instead of putting God first.
Wow.
And so at that moment, I realised, and I prayed to God to help me. I asked for help. And God was like, yes, I'll help you. And I haven't had that consuming desire to continuously read for like 7 hours straight ever since. But the key thing is choices. Because the commandments 1 and 2 are all about what you choose to do. And they're all about the way that you choose to do things. So I was thinking, it's all about your priorities. And the important thing to realise is when do you have a priority shift? That your priorities start to shift when you pick your favourite thing, the thing you love doing. You start to do it instead of other things. You purposely choose, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do my favourite thing instead. At that moment, you have a priority shift, and your favourite thing has just gone up onto the wrong ladder. But at that moment, warning bells should probably go off in your head going, is this the way that I want to live my life with this thing above the other priorities that I've had in my life already? And then when you start to do it because you feel you have to do it, at that point you've made it an idol in your life. At the point where you feel you have no choice but to do that one thing, you have an idol, you have another God in your life.
Yeah.
And it took me forever to realise that. It took me forever to realise. My mum received the revelation years before I did. She'd be on at me day after day going, have you read your Bible? Have you read your Bible? Pretty much was her one question. I'd be like, maybe? Because I was lucky if in those 7 hours of reading I read 5 minutes of the Bible. So what is important is that when you realise that something is wrong, because the important thing with fixing your priorities is for you to first receive the revelation. It doesn't matter if every single other person in this room knows that what you're doing is wrong. If you don't, you won't change. So once you've received the revelation, you've got to want to change. I mean, I could have realised that I should really stop reading this much. But if I hadn't wanted to change, if I hadn't wanted to put God first because I loved God so much, then I wouldn't have changed, quite frankly. And then the third important thing is to pray and believe to change. Because if you don't pray, praying is pretty much you ask God help. And asking God to help is pretty much the best thing you can do in your life because He can do anything.
Yeah.
And then the fourth important thing is you tell somebody else. Because if you keep it to yourself, the chances are that you'll fall back into the old way of doing it is pretty high. I mean, as soon as I stopped, I'm like, Abby, look, I don't have to read anymore. Mum, look, you'll be happy, I've read my Bible more than I've read other books. And that's the important thing. It's you choosing, and then you wanting, so it's you wanting to change, you praying and asking for help to change, but then you also telling someone and acting out so that you make sure that you keep that change in your life.
Yeah.
So if you want to just bow your heads. So, what if today you decided that you really did want to put God first as the priority in your life? What if you decided today that you wanted to really watch the words that came out of your mouth? You wanted to make sure that you didn't verbally murder someone, and you want to make sure that you really show that you love God by your actions, because love is an outpouring of the action. What if today you decided that you wanted to trust in God for the first time in your life? And what if today you decided that you wanted to change? Today's the day you want to change, and you want to pray to God and ask God for help to change. And then, what if you decided to do that today? So if you want to change, if you want to accept God into your life, or if you decide that there's something in your life that has control over you that you want to remove, just raise your hand. And if you don't want to raise your hand, come talk to one of us leaders afterwards, because we want to pray with you, we want to help you, we want to be there to support you. Because the important thing is that even if you ask God for help, we're here to help you too. We're here to go along the journey with you and be there with you to support you.